I just happened to be out here at the Attorney General's office today when Gentner Drummond dropped by and dropped off a Freedom of Information request and a news media request. And I sat here and I listened to his speech, and he just walked out the door. So I have a number of different points I want to address. First, I've never met Gentner Drummond, even though I've practiced law here since 1980. Some of you in the media probably have met me. I've been working on addiction issues for the last 16 years. I formed a foundation called Fighting Addiction Through Education. So this is not some new thing for me. Now I have 9 points that I would like to address concerning Mr. Drummond's statement that he issued today, because what he said is categorically false. First, he's made a statement about there being a need for an RFP that's totally false. You know, one of the first things you have to do if you're going to be an attorney general is you have to know the law. And in Oklahoma, there's absolutely no requirement. Now, I want to say this. One thing I agree with him about, I heard him today say that this lawsuit is a very important lawsuit. The opioid lawsuit against Big Pharma is the most important issue of our day. We're losing more people to overdoses than we are in the entire Vietnam War. It's the critical issue of the day. And this isn't just about bad people. This is about everybody. Everybody in Oklahoma has a family member that has been affected by this crisis. The opioid manufacturers, in my humble opinion, we will be able to prove they're killing babies and everything in between babies and grandparents. They're affecting us all. So Mr. Drummond started out by saying he wants to attack the lawyers, and I'm one of the lead lawyers in the case, and that's why I asked to address this issue. General Hunter, you'd have to ask him specifically why he chose us. But I will say this, we have the largest verdict in the state of Oklahoma. My partner's a former federal judge. I lost my son to addiction in 2002. I've been fighting this battle since 2002. And I've spoken all over the state in hundreds of locations talking about addiction. For me, this lawsuit is a very passionate thing. And I've been doing it for all these years, and I'm going to continue to do it until I can't talk anymore. Now, Mr. Drummond talked about he doesn't have a copy of the attorney fee contract. I don't know why he doesn't. It's been in the media for over a year. It's publicly available, and his aide was handed one today. He specifically now has mooted that issue because he specifically today said anything over 20% he would criticize. Well, the attorney contract that we have is old news, it's in the public, and it's far lower than that. It's a blended rate that is lower. It depends on how much is recovered in the case, but after you pay back the federal government, it could be as low as 6 or 7% after you take that out. The maximum it could be is 10 or 12. So he's totally okayed that today, and I don't know why he didn't get that before he came here today. The attorneys for the pharmaceutical company, I'm in that case. I've attended the hearings, I've attended the depositions, I've fought against them, and I will continue to fight against them. Mr. Drummond doesn't know what's going on in that case, very obviously. There are probably 50 to 100 lawyers at Big Pharma working on this case. They're working around the clock. It is truly a David versus Goliath case. And we are the David and they are the Goliath. Now, this is an old playbook for Big Pharma. They've been attacking the lawyers and the victims for ages. And indeed, you decide if this is a coincidence. Mr. Drummond gave a speech to the District Attorneys Association, and I don't know if he knows it was recorded or not, but several DAs recorded that speech. And in that speech, this is the man that's running to take over this lawsuit against Big Pharma. He said specifically that it's not the manufacturer. It's not the manufacturer. It's the distributor, the pain doctor, the user. Is that a coincidence that he has embraced the defenses that Big Pharma has asserted? Now, he says he believes in transparency. If that is true, why doesn't he tell where the $950,000 media buy that he made to run for Attorney General came from? He hasn't done that. In fact, he filed his candidacy the day after disclosure requirements were needed. So the primary will be over before the voters can even tell where his money came from. My fight has been going on a long time. My oldest son, Brandon, died from prescription drug abuse, and opioid was one of the primary drivers of this. I work on this lawsuit every day, but I work on addiction issues every day. I know how the power of addiction, how it affects families, because it has affected my own. Several years after I buried my son, my nephew, who was a pallbearer at his funeral, was again caught up in the same opioid epidemic, and he died from it. So my family knows this very well, and as probably you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. Now, just so there's no mistake, when Mr. Drummond says it's not the manufacturers, Purdue Pharmaceutical, who started this whole thing, has pled guilty to federal charges. This is not an accident. They didn't accidentally do this. They pled guilty to intentionally misbranding these drugs and lying to the doctors of this country and of this state. So it's no accident. And indeed, just last week, in this lawsuit, we asked Big Pharma to turn over their political contributions, and they have not done so. So you be the judge. Who is really transparent here? We have overcome one of the few motions to dismiss in this case. Our Judge Bachman in Cleveland County, he's the judge that is serving the voters in this case, and he will decide this case between Big Pharma, he and a jury in Cleveland County. It's one of the first states set for trial in the country, if not the first, May of 2019. General Hunter had the bravery to file this lawsuit and take on Big Pharma, and I think we can see what has happened when you take on Big Pharma. It truly is David and Goliath. And I'm proud to represent the voters and the taxpayers in the state of Oklahoma. And I promise you, no one will work harder to win this lawsuit than the team that has been assembled by General Hunter. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Let me be a devil's advocate question. I have respect.
Fire away.
I have respect for you, sir. So his charge is that you donated to Mr. Hunter to get on this lawsuit.
Well, that's utterly ridiculous. Check Gentner Drummond's own record of contributions. He has held fundraisers for Democrats and Republicans alike, and I definitely donated $2,700 to General Hunter's campaign, and I did that because I believe in him. And Gentner Drummond, I'll be the last person to attack him for who he donates to. He's donated to a lot of people. Ask him about that. He has every right to do so. The idea that we would try to buy this lawsuit is ludicrous. We have spent a year of our life working on this case. We haven't been paid a dime. This is a difficult case. It's very difficult. If we lose this case, we will lose enormous amounts of time and money and energy. And $2,700 that I contribute to his campaign, that's really quite insulting. And our record here in the state of Oklahoma that Judge Burrage and I have, Google us and look us up. It's really a preposterous accusation.
If you lose, you don't get any money.
If we lose, we will lose millions of man-hours and millions of dollars. Who's paying for the court reporters, the expert witnesses? It will cost us millions of dollars in out-of-pocket expenses, and the taxpayers don't pay any of that if we lose. Now, we can't even afford to pay for mental health and for our teachers in this state. How in the world is the state of Oklahoma going to hire lawyers like Big Pharma does and pay them $1,500 an hour? They've got lawyers from New York City, from California, all over the country, flowing into that Cleveland County courthouse. And they'll be paid every week, every month, and we will not. I'm handling this case because I'm passionate about it, and I believe in it.
What is there a cap on how much money you could get, the attorneys?
No, it's a contingency fee contract. It complies with every aspect of the law. And again, Mr. Drummond, if he had looked up Oklahoma law instead of Googling other states, he'd see this thing was complied with to the T. Every I is dotted, every T is crossed. Furthermore, I would challenge him to find a lawyer who has a better record than us. I'd be happy to have a debate. Bring him up here.
Well, let me ask, and I've asked Mr. Coffey this before, and I've got to call into him again. I've asked Mr. Hunter about this, but why Glenn Coffey? Why is he on there?
Glenn Coffey is a former speaker We will need him when time comes to figure out where to put the money that we are going to recover from Big Pharma. He is an integral part of our trial team. He also can help in numerous other strategy considerations, figuring out how to handle the lawsuit and many, many other things. He is a seasoned veteran.
You mentioned something about, making sure that the focus is this lawsuit and that everybody's not suing. Is that part of it too?
Well, look, everybody has the right to go to the courthouse. They have a deal called the multi-district litigation in Cleveland, Ohio. And there are a lot of cities and counties that are going there. The MDL is often referred to as a black hole. I've handled MDL cases almost 40 years. I've been there. It is a black hole. We'll never see for sure when that case will get resolved. It won't be within a year. And the state of Oklahoma is the only party that has what's called joint and several liability. That means if Purdue takes bankruptcy, okay, the other defendants may have to pay the whole thing. If a city or a county or some other party goes to the MDL, they lose that.